live with passion and purpose, which is exactly what Jerry's going to talk about tonight, the intersection between passion and purpose. And we feel that we're part of this positive aging movement. We feel that there's so much awaiting us in this third stage of our lives. You two could talk about that greatly, and hope that we'll be able to feature you at some point to tell us more about the positive side and what we have out there to embrace. So we offer these programs monthly. In the evening, we'll be offering more events in the daytime here. Everything focused around that embracing life to the fullest. And if you are not already on our mailing list, we will put you on the mailing list. That will entitle you to the e-newsletter that comes out once a month, and it will tell you all the events going on in New York City. We'll lead you to resources we think you would be interested in, and if you ever feel that you have anything to contribute to our newsletters, and we have a national newsletter as well that reaches almost 5,000 people. We do Explore Your Future workshops. So we really have a good gig going here, and we want to be able to see you come back again and enjoy these wonderful, wonderful programs. We'll have a raffle afterwards, so stay around to see if you win anything, and invite you to come again. I'd like to introduce Remus Jason. He's the director of PSS, and he'll tell you a little bit more about Circle of Care and what else.
And then I'll introduce Jerry.
That sounds good. Then we'll have you speak.
Oh, no, I'm leaving now. So I just want to thank, let's give Pam a round of applause. Pam does such a great job of coordinating these sessions. She finds interesting and informative speakers and topics all the time. And she also covers those topics in her e-newsletters. So you all receive our e-newsletter, right? I'm sure you do, or you probably wouldn't be here. But if you don't, make sure you go on the website and sign up, and tell your friends to sign up to learn more about coming of age and sign up for our e-newsletter, because Pam coordinates activities like this. There's 1 or 2 a month. The e-newsletter is a lot of great information, so it's important people just sign up so that they could know what's available. I did want to mention Circle of Care. The brochures are over there. The reason why I want to mention this is, how many people here know someone, friend, a neighbor, a colleague, who's caring for someone who's suffering from dementia? How many people know someone who's caring for another family member with dementia? Well, you can change their lives simply by letting them know about this service. Our services are funded by both the New York City Department for the Aging and the New York State Department of Health. And because of that, our services are free of charge. And we have professional staff. You probably met Jessica a little bit earlier. She's one of our care consultants. We have care consultants in every borough. And they'll meet with family caregiver at their place of employment, at the coffee shop nearby, or even in their home, to help them think through what their needs are and help identify resources and help guide them through the caregiving process, which could be very complicated. So you can be a hero for somebody just by giving them this information and telling them to give us a call. We'd love to meet them. A lot of caregivers don't ask for help until it's too late. They don't even realize that help is out there, or they think it's going to be very expensive. Our services, because they're so well funded by the city and the state, their services are free, and there's no catch. And there's no eligibility criteria. You don't have to be a certain income to be eligible. Anybody who's caring for someone with dementia is eligible. Okay? So change somebody's life. Grab this brochure on your way out. We're excited to have Jerry Kahn here. I remember when Pam and I met with Jerry at Age Brilliantly, I don't know, maybe about half a year ago. We were very impressed with what his company does. I'm not going to read his bio. It's all right here. I encourage you to read it. It's pretty impressive. Suffice it to say, he's an entrepreneur, a thought leader in this particular field of aging. He's a college professor. He's an instructor. And his vision is to help people really live and fulfill their potentials and to age brilliantly, as his company is called. So it's my pleasure to invite Jerry now to give his presentation. It was interesting to hear that you all now are going to be his guinea pigs for this first blush of this. So let's all welcome Jerry.
Thank you. So I do a lot of public speaking in different ways and different times, and I usually have a different kind of goal for every meeting that I go to. So I want to thank our hosts and also Judy, who's with me, helping me out on doing this, and if you have any questions later about Age Brilliantly, you can ask her. And when I put this thing together, I said to myself, you know, it's late at night. Last thing we need to do is sit around and get some boring person talk about boring facts and figures. What we really need is something that's fun, something that's challenging, something that's going to make us think a little bit differently. And so I said, you know something, one of my favorite people in life is not alive, but we all know who he is, Mark Twain. And Mark Twain is famous for a lot of things. But one of the things is a great quote. He said, it ain't what you know, it ain't what you don't know that's a problem. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. And that's what we're really dealing with tonight. And that's what I'm going to challenge you on. And I kind of put an outline for these so that I can talk and just glance at it as we go through. Because the reality of the life that we're living right now is wrong. And so that's my first basic challenge to all of you as we take a look at it. It is a myth that the phenomenon we're living in today called retirement is the normal state of affairs. And from there, if you're willing to accept that premise, it takes you to a lot of really great places, which really lead you at the end to an intersection of passion and purpose for 100+ years of your life, the lives of your children, and the lives of your grandchildren. And I'll be very honest, I make a trade-off whenever I do something, because life is trade-offs. My focus is your kids and your grandkids. Yep.
Jerry, could you put that sign under the light to see if
That'll be, it's more for me than for you to be positive. Oh, okay. Try to get it under the light there.
Hey!
Yeah, all right.
Let there be light.
Let there be light.
Yeah, the trade-off is it's farther away.
That's right. It's okay, I can't read it without my glasses either, so we're in great shape, okay? So that's fine. So let me tell you why I start off with the comment that retirement is, we think about it, as a social structure that everyone's talking about. Yes?
Can you turn a little so that?
You know what I need to do is get 3 of these, right?
Yeah, no, actually.
That a little better? You don't
Focus.
really need this as I'm driving. I teach from boards. That's how I've done it, so that I don't look at notes. I don't have to go through slides. I kind of look at it and go, that's what my next point is. I remember it. Because I get very passionate about what I teach about, so you can see that. But my purpose is for you to be challenged tonight. So let's try to understand why I'm saying that, okay? So let's take the concept. Where did retirement come from? It's almost 150 years old, closer to 135 years old. It started in Prussia. None of us were there, were we? Okay? But we've all heard about it. Germany, okay? Poland, that whole area was Prussia. There was a person by the name of Otto von Bismarck who ran it. He was a general. He became the leader of the country. He took a look at his world and he noticed 2 things are really tough. He had a lot of people who were in the army, because that's how he conquered nations. And after they worked hard, these were people who lived in an agrarian society. They worked hard if they weren't in the army. They worked hard if they were in the army. What happened is, if they work and they get older, what do you say to say thank you? I mean, is that just what they're going to do then? They get up in the morning after working 40 years in the field, now being in the army, and then they have a heart attack and they croak and that's the end of it, and goodbye? So you know what? He's looking at the world and he's doing this in the late 1880s. And at that period of time, the world's going through some socialism, and the whole movement that's eventually going to lead to the Soviet Union is really now beginning its whole process with Marx and everything. And as he's looking at all of this, he's saying, I want to make sure that I do the right thing for my people. So he comes up with this concept called retirement. Well, you see, when you get old, you retire because you've been working in those fields, or you've been working in the army, and mostly he was focused on the army people, and giving them a chance to be able to have some kind of social security, as we call it now. Okay? Now, he decides you gotta pick an age. How about 70? He's 74. Okay? Takes another 30 years before they drop it to 65. But that's how we get retirement at 65 in America. Okay? That's where it's coming from. We're there. What moves it forward? He had the same problem. He needed to move the economy forward. How do you move the economy forward? You make sure there are jobs for younger people. So the older people who had nothing else to do except stay active, they're either in the army, they're doing agrarian work, working in the fields. So what he says is, we're going to give you a chance to get out of it. And so he makes that movement forward. Okay? Well, what happens is, now that he's figured this solution out, the unions in America in the 1920s and 1930s, especially going through 1929, the Depression, said, you know something? We're going to have the same problem here. People are going to be working, and we need to kind of say thank you to them for working. Let's see if we can't provide them security. But our main concern isn't security. Our main thing is to make sure we have new people coming in for those jobs. So in 1934, the labor unions in America go to Congress and say, we should have a bill mandating retirement. At, guess what age? 54. Let's understand something. In 1901, the average age span in America, drop it, try 40s.
Wow.
40.7. Okay? 40.7 is when the average, and again, averages could be done lots of different ways, but that's the bottom line. Okay? So they're going ahead and they put it through as a law. It loses by, I worked in Congress, so I kind of like this kind of stuff. It loses by 1 vote. And then in 1935, Franklin Roosevelt says, we're going to take over and circumvent that. And what does he do? He creates Social Security, which in the 60s becomes Medicare, and this is what we know today. So all of this stuff is kind of new, except for the next piece of equation. In 1980s, we suddenly realized this economy doesn't just have to substitute people, but we can grow an economy, and the economy's growing. And we're taking some of our older workers and we're saying to them, well, we need to make room for younger people, but that's not really true. Take a look today. We have a job problem. We have more people we don't have enough people to fill some of the jobs we have. It's a displacement educationally, but what is there's people out there. So what happens is the country says, you know what, we've gone through the 1960s about discrimination laws. Let's do the same thing about it. Age is a discrimination, so we create a law in the 1980s that stops age mandating that you have to retire with certain qualifications and everything, etc. So for example, if you're a pilot, 62, things like that are where you have someone. And then what do we discover? We're living longer still. Okay, an average of 4 years for every 10. Part of it's because, if you want to know where the longevity number comes from, longevity number comes from the fact that if young kids aren't dying, which is what happened for the history of the world at a higher level, we've taken care of that. And people can live longer, because remember, Bismarck was 74 when he passed it. So he was already past that age. Okay? So there are people living older at this stage. What happens now is they have to come up with some solution to this problem. Okay? And so the solution is, as people are getting older, we've got to find a way to have work for them. So today we're discovering the big age is 100. There's a whole bunch of books out. Some of you have read it. Livingto100.com is one of them, etc. The Blue Zone's focusing on people living to over 100. There's a village in southern China which has an average age over 100. PBS did a study on a place in that makes needles in Massachusetts. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a really great story. The focus is a woman. Her name is Rose. She's 101. Goes to work every day. Average age in that place is 74. The kid at 47 owns the place. Okay? So this concept that we grew up with, that people are going to want to retire because we need to make space, doesn't exist anymore. People are living longer, so it's not really happening that way. We can stop for a second. Let's take the second point. So then what happens is, there's an organization called AARP that starts off with people that are 60 and 65 and dealing with the Medicare systems. In the 60s is where it's starting its major movement, and it says, we need more members. So we'll drop the age to 55. We need even more members. We'll make it 50. And so everyone's talking about 50 plus, the whole industry. Except the reality is 50 isn't old. 50 isn't old. Come on now. I teach. And I teach psychology of aging, and I teach business strategy, and I sit down with the kids, and I say, let's get rid of these damn stereotypes that are hurting everybody. Because we actually reinforcing these bad stereotypes. Okay, we create our own ageism when we think we have to think about it this way. So the result is, if that's not there, I say, how many of you have parents? Thank God most of them do. And how old are your parents? On average, they're 50 to 60. And I said, how many of you think they're old? Not a hand goes up. I know their parents would kill them if they said it, right? But the parents aren't in the classroom, so it's a legitimate comment. Okay? So that's not what's happening. It's not old. You ask yourself, do you feel old at whatever ages you are right now? I guarantee you don't feel old. We feel more vibrant than we ever did before. You know the other data, because you've read it all and you've seen it all, and it's every day in the newspaper, is that if we take care of our health, if we take care by exercising, by eating the right things, by using our mind, Brain HQ is a great place if people are worried about that, to be able to focus on it. They do all of that stuff, you can live easily to 100, and as some people have said in this industry, you know what? Someone is going to live to 150 already. So why are we talking about 50 being old? So we have to change our frame of reference. Go ahead.
But the thing is, though, it's okay to live till 100 or more, but, and maybe this is just my personal opinion, but I don't want, I want to be able to
Live
have
well.
my faculties
Right.
mentally and physically. And if I have severe dementia, if I develop severe dementia.
And you can have that at any age.
Correct.
See, that's the thing that's wrong.
But the older that you get, though, the harder it is to deal with it,
Okay, so
possibly.
can we, Joy, get to that later? Because I'll walk you
Okay.
through some issues that
Okay.
deal with that. The
Okay.
point is, I'm not the first one to say this. Okay? Nothing I'm saying is new. Okay? Nothing's new under the heavens, right? This is all kind of known. Because the answer is, for the last 15 years, people have been doing this. Chris Bauer wrote a book called On Retirement. People are talking about this all the time. You should rewire, you should revisit, you should be, all this stuff about retirement because they think retirement is normal. That's the problem. They're thinking something's normal that's not normal. And so there's a tremendous backlash from everybody, and here's the problem. We still keep doing it. Because you can't do that. The way you evoke change is to change our language, to change the way we think, the way we do everything we do, and come up with a new language to do it. Let me give you a simple example.
We have to
In
change-
1900, excuse me?
We have to change the word retirement.
Exactly. Well, we have to get rid of it, we're going to say,
Yeah.
in terms of the way it's being used now, and come up with a completely new phrase, and we'll walk you through one today, okay? But here's my point. Think about it this way. In 1900, in 1888, when Bismarck was doing it, how did most people get around?
Reinvention. I like that.
By buggy.
That's right, horse and buggy. And as Ford said, if I were to listen to what people said, they wanted better wheels and better horses to get a faster buggy. But he came up with a better idea, and he invented the first, listen to our language now, horseless carriage. That's how we build language. Horseless carriage. How many of you have been driving a horseless carriage for the last year? No? Wow. Well, we got rid of the word horseless, and we got down to carriage, and we get down to car. But do you think we're any better? Okay? What are we doing now? We're creating?
Pollution.
No, what are we creating right now? What kind of cars? Driverless cars!
Oh.
That's a change. We're still in this old world. We're talking about autonomous vehicles, vehicles that drive themselves because of the software and the hardware in our conception. But we don't change our language. That's why working with the word retirement becomes such a problem. It's an old language, it's tied to a whole lot of other ideas, and we have to change it. And so, we at Age Brilliantly are creating a new framework, which we call the elongated life from 0 to 100 plus. And it says, let's map out life completely differently by changing our language and looking at it. And how do we know it works? Go back to your point. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is 85 and she's a Supreme Court judge. How many of you think she's got dementia and incompetence? No. Henry Kissinger at 94 is giving advice to the presidency of the United States. Okay? Ed Schatz, how old is he now?
100.
Ed Fultz, rather. No. He's 92 and he